My name is Claire Harrison, I am 38 years old, and 3 weeks ago I stood at the edge of a private dining room in New England watching my younger brother Ryan Harrison raise a whiskey glass in front of 30 guests and confidently announce that I hadn't paid for a single part of our parents' 35th anniversary dinner. My Aunt Denise Carter clapped once and coldly said to let the real family enjoy it, while my mother Linda stared at her plate and my father Robert kept his eyes fixed on his glass, both choosing silence over truth. I didn't argue, I didn't react, I simply placed my napkin down, picked up my coat, and walked out of the room without saying a word, while behind me my entire family continued the evening as if I had never existed. What they didn't know was that I had been the one who planned everything, paid the deposit, booked the private hall, and organized every detail weeks in advance because my mother had asked me for help, as she always did when things got difficult, and as always, I said yes without hesitation. It all began 3 weeks earlier when my phone rang at 4:17 p.m. on a Thursday and I saw Mom on the screen. Her voice carried that familiar hesitant tone she used when she needed something but didn't want to fully ask for it, and she told me Ryan had agreed to arrange the anniversary dinner but was too busy and stressed. I already understood what that meant, he hadn't done anything, and the responsibility was quietly shifting toward me like it always did. Without arguing or questioning, I simply said, I'll take care of it, even though I knew deep down this was another moment where I was stepping into a role no one officially assigned me but everyone expected me to fulfill. That same evening, I booked a private dining space called the Ember House, arranged a full menu, secured a deposit with my work bonus, and confirmed everything under my name. I even told myself I was doing it for peace, for my parents, for family harmony, for avoiding stress. But in reality, I was just repeating a pattern I had lived my entire life, fixing what others broke quietly and invisibly. In the days leading up to the event, things became clearer in ways I didn't want to admit. Ryan started telling relatives that he was co-hosting the dinner, speaking as if he had arranged everything himself, and my Aunt Denise reinforced that narrative every chance she got, proudly saying Ryan was the one holding the family together. No one corrected them, not even my parents, and that silence hurt more than anything they could have said. I began to realize that I wasn't just being overlooked, I was being erased from the story I had built. Still, I said nothing, because I kept telling myself that the night was not about credit, it was about my parents' happiness. On the night of the dinner, the Ember House was glowing with warm light, candles, and carefully arranged tables. Guests arrived, complimented everything, and admired the atmosphere, while I stood quietly in the background watching the night unfold exactly as I had planned. Then Ryan stood up to give a toast, smiling confidently as he said he and Tiffany and I had created this special evening for our parents. The room applauded, unaware of the truth, while I sat still, observing how easily credit could be stolen when no one challenged it. I didn't interrupt him, even when it became obvious that he was fully taking ownership of what I had done, because I still believed silence was the safest way to protect peace. But everything changed when, just before dessert, Ryan stood up again, this time louder, more confident, almost performative, and pointed toward me. He said in front of everyone that I hadn't paid for a single bite of the dinner, and my Aunt Denise immediately added that real family was present in the room while I apparently was not. In that moment, I looked at my parents expecting even a glance, some small correction, some acknowledgement of truth, but they said nothing. That silence broke something inside me, not in anger, but in clarity. I realized I had spent years trying to earn a place at a table I had already built. I calmly stood up, picked up my daughter Lily, and told my husband Ethan to take her outside. He didn't question me. I walked out of that dining room without raising my voice, without defending myself, because I understood that truth does not need volume. In the parking lot, I called the restaurant manager Sophia Reynolds and withdrew authorization for payment, instructing her to present the remaining bill directly to Ryan. My voice was steady because for the first time, I wasn't acting out of guilt or obligation, I was acting out of self-respect. Later that evening, Sophia returned to the dining room carrying the final bill folio. The atmosphere shifted instantly when she announced the remaining balance and confirmed that I had withdrawn authorization. Ryan tried to laugh it off, but his cards were declined one after another, and the confidence he had carried all evening slowly collapsed in front of everyone. Eventually, my father stood up, paid the bill himself in silence, and simply told Ryan to go home. That moment marked the end of the illusion he had built. After that night, everything began to change. My mother eventually came to my home alone and cried, admitting she had stayed silent out of fear of confrontation, while I told her gently but firmly that apologies are not enough unless behavior changes. My aunt was later served with legal restrictions after entering my home without permission, and my brother faced consequences for his actions. My father began calling me every Sunday, not to argue, but to reconnect quietly and honestly, and for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't invisible in my own family. Months later, on Thanksgiving, we sat at a smaller table, me, my husband, my daughter, and my parents. The conversation was quieter, more honest, and when my daughter asked why no one spoke up that night at the dinner, my mother finally admitted that silence had been her mistake and that she was learning to use her voice. It wasn't a perfect healing, but it was real, and for the first time, I understood that family is not defined by shared blood or forced silence. It is defined by respect, accountability, and truth. Sometimes people stay quiet to keep peace, but silence in the face of wrong only makes things worse. Real strength is not in shouting or proving yourself, it is in knowing your worth and standing with truth calmly. Family is important, but respect, honesty, and fairness matter even more. When someone keeps taking advantage of your kindness, setting boundaries is not disrespect, it is self-respect. A good heart forgives, but it also learns. It doesn't allow the same hurt again and again. True dignity comes from staying patient, acting with wisdom, and choosing what is right, even when it is difficult. In the end, peace does not come from pleasing everyone, it comes from doing what is just and keeping your heart clean.